Is this just fantasy? No, nothing's really just fantasy, but this is Bloodrik by Andrew Krahnke. And I read this very recently, and I had to talk about it because I really love it. I think it's great. And also, I think more people should be made aware of it. And it just released its second printing of this first issue. And right now, as of this recording, there's 2 issues out. But I wanted to talk about this first one. For people, okay, it's interesting because I'm not sure if I feel like people who like Conan will probably like this, but it is taken in a completely different direction. It is a much more, this is a much more stripped down story than anything I've ever seen with Conan. And because it's essentially about a bad hunting trip, and that's it. But it's amazingly rendered. The art here by Andrew Krahnke is just a delight, a intense, muscly delight. This is what the interior art looks like, by the way. It's not like they got a ringer to do the cover and then they changed it up on the inside. No, this is him. This is him doing it, and we're just gonna kind of get into it. I will say though, the first thing that I saw is in the front, front of the cover here, or on the other side of the cover. We have Andrew giving us a little narrative of the history of this and how it started as a little ash can. It started as like a drawing he did that he liked, and then he spent about 10 years trying to write a script for it. And then after all of that, he threw all of that he had done away because he hadn't drawn anything. He had just tried to plan stuff. And so then he just went for it. And he did a little ash can story and sold it out at the Small Press Expo. And then word got around and he was able to parlay that with some connections he made into the issue we're reading now. As an independent artist, as someone who wants to be in Andrew's position right now, I love this. And so it makes me like the comic even more. And that was before I even read it. I was like, all right, I already love it. I already love the idea of it. So let's just get into what is the actual comic. So here we get a very Conan the Barbarian kind of opening of this sword maker talking about swords and forged in fire and metal and such. It's very, very much like the start of a Conan the Barbarian movie or story. And just really cool first panel. That hot liquid pouring down. And this guy's called Bloodrik. It's pretty intense. But what I love is that this is a story about how he went hunting and he couldn't find anything to eat. And much of the issue is dealing with his struggles to find something to eat. And it is just this incredible feast for the eyes the entire way. Just amazing trees. Though this vertical line like hatching, this very frenetic, sometimes aggressive, but always like lively hatching. This like vertical hatching that like he does like on figures as well as on the trees here. It adds a lot, and it's really definitely a signature of his style. I also love how he renders these shrubs here. it's very it's like a formula. He puts he pops them in here and there, but it still reads properly, and that's the important part. Even if something's very simplified, it as long as it reads properly, we're good. And I also love just this tread here, walking there, and yeah, he's basically he's wearing the Conan outfit, but he's in the snow and he just doesn't give a shit because he's hungry. He's just crunching through the snow. I love seeing these fallen trees being revealed. And he's also very meticulous about where he's putting his text. He's making sure it's not covering up anything. And he's spare with it. He's not too intense with how much text he puts in here. Just great landscapes. And great colors. Great color choices. Yeah, and here we have our hero shot first. And he's just tensed and ready to go. But there's nothing. There's no food. And he has to keep going. And that's like the force is he's in survival mode. And yeah, I'm here for how it looks, folks, and it looks amazing. And it's definitely depicting a journey, and it's depicting a journey really well. And then more of those vertical lines. And what's interesting is that at least some of this is the Ashcan art, or the Ashcan comic. And I'm curious how much of it is that. And when it transitions into what he did to add on to it for this issue. Or if the Ashcan is just a completely different version of this same story. But yeah, it's great sound design too. And I love this. He sees this hawk. It's the first sign of life, and he's fuming. He's getting angry. He keeps getting angrier. That's another thing that's for sure. And he's just going through, just smashing all these things. It's just it's got a great sense of humor. That's one of the things I really like about it. And you have these great page designs. This is what happens when somebody's like, you know what, I just want to freaking draw. And I'm just going to draw exactly what I want. And we get to benefit from that. This is when an editor is not, somebody who doesn't know anything about comics isn't coming in saying like, shouldn't there be like fighting guys or something? It's like, no, this is what we want. As far as how quote unquote fantasy this is, I would say it's very, very light, to the point where it's using kind of the visual language of like a fantasy barbarian type guy, and that's about it. The second issue leads into something that feels a little more like there's more to the world than just very grounded stories, whatever. So, but this is it's like a more naturalistic tale being told in a world that's maybe more fantastical. I just love this. Yeah, he's having an existential crisis. He's just falling in the snow. And like, this is what the world should be like, is all these dead, everything dies for him. He's king of the woods. I just love everything's got an arrow through it. Just standing beside him. He's got pouches full with food. But no, he feels like he's gonna die here. This is great. And now he's kind of like slowing himself down, slowing all of his senses down, his thinking, his body, for survival purposes, but also so that he might catch some sense of food out there. And suddenly a deer shows up and he just instantly pops back up, takes him, and he gets it. And he's just, with a single shot, he got it. And it's like proof of his prowess, but I love this transition. This is so good. Him just fading into nothing. And then as soon as this deer pops up and it's just like, hey, what's up? Immediately he's dead. Great setup and payoff for that. And then he goes in, he starts hacking this thing up. And I love these kinds of panels right here. This is awesome. But then he hears something coming, and we can see something coming here. And like he's just starting to eat, and a motherfucking bear shows up and just tearing his shit up. These panels are just so alive, so vibrant. Look at this warped bear that's attacking him. It is so energetic and expressionistic. It is just wonderful. And he's just being clawed and taken out by this fucking bear as soon as he gets food. And that is the end of part 1. Holy shit, right? There we go. So I just love this sense of humor. And what's great is here we have, a little ad for next time, and also he adds backup stories. And what's interesting is that even in the backup stories, just like the main story, it's someone telling a story about Bloodrik. And so everybody knows the stories about Bloodrik, and here we have a story about Bloodrik, and this story is, I think, hilarious. And it is, he's out hunting. I feel like this might be actually the ash can. For some reason. And, he's this great hunter, and he was on the hunt, and he sees this, like, pheasant. And what I love is that this pheasant is just chuffing along, and then it stops behind this tree. And he's got his arrow ready, and he's got it pulled back. He's ready for when that pheasant shows its head. And he would strike. And then Bloodrik spends the rest of the comic waiting for this fucking pheasant to get out from behind that tree. And I think it's hilarious. It's so intense. It's so... And yet it's so small. It's so small as far as what moment's depicting, but we get multiple pages of this guy just tensing his muscles, like this shot right here of his muscles getting intense and hot and on fire and melting and bubbling. It's so amazing, and yet he's like, where the hell is this fucking pheasant? And like all these other things appear for him to kill and eat. And yet, no, he's fucking set on this fucking pheasant. And, he even sees a deer. And yet, he's still there. So, does he get it? You'll have to buy the comic to find out. Ha, ha, ha. That's right. You need to get Bloodrik. For all the Conan fans out there, for all of the, kind of low fantasy fans, or just fans of great comics and great art, and who want to support kind of new independent artists. Look up Andrew Krahnke and buy your copy of Bloodrik, because this stuff is awesome. I can't wait to see more of Bloodrik. I can't wait to talk about more of Bloodrik, and I can't wait to just see more of what Andrew Krahnke does. He's got a brand new fan, but I want you all to be fans of his. And as a working artist, as a independent artist myself who wants to, hit the big time with the publishers, Consider Side Questers, everybody. A fantasy odd couple buddy cop story with a straight laced warrior who has to team up with a loose cannon giant lizard man. And it's fun, it's action packed, it's got some humor, it's got just a whole big expansive world. It's got everything. This is the first story arc. This is the first 8 issues collected. And if you want more of that universe, I have my Haxan anthologies, which are short stories about wizards and witches and such that exist in the same universe as Side Questers. And I have 2 60-page volumes of that. You can buy this on my website. And if you want something that's a little more conventional, check out 3-Panel Origin, which is actually the least conventional superhero comic you'll imagine. It is a comic made up entirely of origins. And all the characters are kind of awkward and weird, kind of like The Tick. This is collecting the first 3 years of comics. I'm currently in year 9 of comics. And this is a book of short stories with these characters. And you can buy this on my website. You can read Side Questers and Haxan on Global Comics. And you can read Bloodrik when you buy it from your local comic shop.